This is Allison Blaker interviewing Mr. Haberl on the Iron Curtain. Could you explain the reasons and the effect of the Iron Curtain?
Okay, well, the term the Iron Curtain comes from a speech that was given by Winston Churchill back in the 1950s, mid-1950s. It was a college commencement speech at a college in Iowa, I believe, where he referred to the countries that were in Eastern Europe after the Second World War as being behind an Iron Curtain because the Russians had supposedly liberated those countries at the end of the Second World War, okay, only to enslave them themselves. In other words, they freed them from the Nazis only to take over and now dominate them as well. So this was the idea that these countries did not have the freedom that the countries in the West did, like France and the other countries that were freed, Italy at the end of the war, Western Germany, okay?
All right. What effect did the Iron Curtain have on American society?
Okay, well, it kind of changed the way American policy was shaped during World War II. We were allies with the Soviet Union, with the Russians, okay? And President Franklin Roosevelt thought that he could build a friendship and an alliance with Joseph Stalin. He used to call him Uncle Joe, all right? At the end of the war, when we realized that the Russians were not going to give those countries their freedom back after they were liberated from the Germans, then the United States and the countries of Western Europe developed a strategy to try to contain the expansion of the Soviet Union. In other words, the Soviet Union now didn't exist just within its own boundaries, but it had taken in Eastern Europe as well. So that was the beginning of what was called the Cold War, and the policy of what we called containment, keeping the Russians from taking the rest of Europe now that they had the eastern part. NATO was developed, for instance, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which were the countries of Western Europe, the United States, the Canadians, that were a military alliance to protect each other against an attack by the Soviet Union. Okay? So that period of time became the Cold War.
Okay. And what period of time was the Iron
That would have been, well, right after the Second World War, when we realized what the Russian intention was of occupying and controlling Eastern Europe, down to probably the fall of the Berlin Wall, which was in 1989, and that period of time, and the eventual collapse of the Soviet Union. You know, once the Soviet Union was gone, then there was no Cold War. We were the only superpower that was left at the end of the war.
All right, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.